So back in July, we had a fantastic gathering of the tribe. All our cousins and branches of the family came together for a huge gathering, and it was really wonderful. It was not only seeing what we have in common, but seeing differences along the way, and not only realizing what makes us strong, but giving credence to our weaknesses and our ancestors as well. One of the ideas I had was to set some trees in recognition of the great meeting. And I also had in my mind there is the Ogham alphabet. Each letter of the Ogham alphabet is connected to a tree. So I wanted to make a circle of these trees. And it was all very exciting. Certain branches of the family went off to buy trees. Found the garden centre had lots of maples and cherries and slightly exotic trees, but they didn't have the ordinary common Irish trees. And I'm actually glad this happened in a way, because in the first instance, I've actually had to go off and find these trees, where they're growing, what they're doing. So it's a much more organic approach, and I've been able to spend time getting the trees. And secondly, we also had the idea that each branch would buy a tree, would set a tree, and I'm glad that didn't happen, because just in case, human nature takes over, people invest their time and their energy into one tree, and maybe a certain tree mightn't grow this year. We might have to replant one next year. We might have to change the soil, or something might come up. So then that branch that set that tree would feel a little bit, oh, what's happened there? So I think it's much better that we take ownership of the whole circle, of the whole project. So I started off with that great old symbol, the circle. And then I started writing out B-I-R-C-H, birch, the trees of the Ogham alphabet. We would never say willow, we say Sally. Vine. Vine is interesting. It can mean a lot of different things. In some places it says briar. I might use honeysuckle, I think, because briar is so invasive once you set it. So 360 divided by 13, 360 degrees in a circle, is 27, and I cheated. 27 and a bit. We'll just leave it at 27. Yeah, I cheated. I used the calculator there. So what I'm going to do is do that mark better for the middle of the circle. Now, what I usually find handy here, rather than counting out the whole time, I would put a little bit of masking tape or a little post-it just to give that measurement, so you don't have to keep going around. So then I would go to 90 here, keep in the middle, and we go here again. Can you see that I'm just using the same mark? And there we have our circle nicely divided up. The last one will be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. That's a little bit like the leap year has to happen. So where I started with ash up here when I started planting, I'm just going to draw vine. So I took that to the land where I wanted to set the trees. And using those angles as a guide, and with a long rope as the radius, I started making the circle of trees. It was quite hard to make sure that I had the angle right, but with double checking it seemed to work. There was something very magical and druidic about doing it as well, doing all the measurements and casting out the rope almost. So then once I had my marker, I would set out where the tree would be sat, and I use a scallop shell for that. Cut the grass around it, which was be ready then for the trees to be sat. Now it is very beautiful up there, but it's also very windswept, so I decided to make a bigger circle and set that with sallies or willow, different kinds, in a nice bigger circle. So I'm just planting some willows here. This willow, our grandfather, my grandfather, Thomas O'Leary, would have used for making baskets. And that method of basket making I'd love to show someday on a video, but we're talking next spring now. But some of the willows I've sat already are beginning to grow. It's beautiful to see the little green shoots coming up to show that the roots are working already. Now, they'll probably die off for the winter, but they'll come back next spring and they'll be a great protection to the circle of trees. And we have some of those trees sat now already. This is just the circle of willow. I don't know if you can see it, but it just shows the extent and how big the circle is going to be. But we have our trees sat, and we have the rowan, we have the ash, you can see it there. The alder is a little bit hard to see, but there it is there with its scallop shell. We have the hawthorn. Again, they're so blended in this time of year, but the hawthorn is there. We have the holly, which is such a beautiful rich green, and there we have the hazel. So there's still more trees in the circle to set. There's still a lot of projects that could be done up there. And I'm thinking maybe you might just wait until people visit again and they can give a hand. So again, there's joint ownership of the whole project.